If you consider a human being as a resource, the nature of resource is such that if you pick up a resource, we already know its qualities. We know what it can do, what it cannot do. We know this is what it is, or in other words, it's a quantity. There is a phenomenal difference between what is a quantity and what is a possibility. A human being is a possibility. So when you get a human being in your hands, if you think this is a resource, you will never unfold the genius of that human being. So considering a living being as a resource is a crime.
Human is not a resource is a groundbreaking offering by Isha Leadership Academy aimed at transforming the role and approach of HR. The conclave has been envisioned by Sadhguru around the key insight that a human being is a possibility, not a resource. Every year, this unique conclave brings together thought leaders, CEOs and chief HR officers in a stimulating environment to rethink and reimagine all aspects of HR. The conclave is conducted by the Isha Leadership Academy, which aims to offer some of the most comprehensive leadership programs in India. These programs stand out by integrating training in external skill sets and tools for transformation to create balanced leaders of great vision and capability. Human is not a resource takes place at the serene yet energized ambience of the Isha Yoga Center in Coimbatore. The center is an ideal setting to gain new insights, explore ideas and connect with speakers and co-participants.
The CEO of biggest content company in America, he said that Netflix is not even in my radar.
Patanjali, look what they're doing to Hindustan Unilever, right? Flipkart, what they've done to retail. Digital payments, IBM computers, they got bought over. Radio taxi, can you understand what this country and what the world is going through?
Unlike 5 years ago, unlike a time when only few companies were changing, disruption is around us. So just to talk about disruption in the HR organization, research after research is showing that the half-life of skills is dropping steadily.
Can you understand? You're sitting in the industry, dominant king, knows everything, he has the best people to research, field market, understand this. And you say, okay, oh, they're not there. In 1 year, the CEO was bankrupt, the whole company was bankrupt, and Netflix had outpaced him in 1 year. And you know what we have seen as a disruption, not even 1% of what it is. The next 10 years will see 99% of the disruption that the humanity has seen. 99% is ahead of us. Oculus Rift is a very interesting example, actually. It's a company which was funded through crowdsourcing, crowdfunding, where the owner, a 19-year-old boy, did not have money, and he asked everybody to give $1 or $10 each, collected $2 million, set up this company, exactly under 18 months, sold it to Facebook for $2 billion. Yeah? So not a single paisa of his own. $2 billion, mein bech diya. So this is the way the world we are living in. So on one hand, it is great, but this is what is happening, and I think this reality must dawn upon us.
When I was asked to join Dr. Reddy's, the mandate was that we want to become a global company, and we need to globalize, we need to completely professionalize, and we need to grow. So I analyzed what are the 10 critical factors for business growth for Dr. Reddy's in future years. One of the first thing there was on the organization design. Organization design is something which has to be looked at very, very frequently because the market is changing so dynamically. If you keep a static design, and if you believe that if you tweak the design, your continuity is getting disturbed, people are getting disturbed, then the organization will not be in a position to respond to those changes very, very dynamically. So the organization design has to be such that it could be very flexible to adapt to requirement of business in different geographies, of different product segments, or whatever way you want to develop in your organization.
Whatever activity we picked up in our life to do, whether it's business or a school or a spiritual process or anything, we have to be agile to be relevant, there's no question about that. If you don't know how to be agile, you must teach history. That's one thing that doesn't change. So, if you're talking about crafting the future in some way, you got to be agile. When you're agile, people will think you're crazy, because when you're agile, largely people will see you standing on one foot. The other foot will be looking somewhere else where there is no land yet. The other foot is searching for land which is not yet. So people see you standing on one foot and they think you're crazy. Here we have a teacher whose name is Ekapada.
A lot of people talked about being agile, call it dynamic stability. It's not agile as in restless, it's agile as in stable, but dynamic stability. It's like riding a bicycle, constantly riding a bicycle, and we need to learn to exist in that state. Not sitting, but riding a bicycle there. Future is not about IQ or EQ, it's about AQ, AQ being adaptability. And the new currency is unlearning. Stability is about unlearning. How quickly can you unlearn and bounce back quickly to learn? I think that's the new stability. So the greatest danger in today's turbulent time is not succeeding, failing, that's not danger, it's okay. But not evolving is the most dangerous thing today.
Disruption will require being agile. And agile is the buzzword today. And now, the agile thing is saying three things for sure. One is that make sure that the CHR of the company is elevated to the position along with the CEO and the CFO. Typically what happens? Financial capital is decided by the CEO and the CFO, and then let's call the HR guys. Doesn't happen like that. Human capital and financial capital have to sit on the same table. And the imperative for HR is that we start contributing to business and to strategy.
Okay, so let's talk about the survey. So we had 44 companies participating. We had 344 responses that came in. We looked at what do they see and what's the opinion about the HR function. So only 45% understand the products. 43% felt that HR is not a partner in strategy execution. So literally HR seem to feel that 43% feel that they are called in only after to be told that this is what needs to be done.
You can do an HR chief role sitting in your cabin. If you are a HR chief, you should be all the time either in R&D labs, understanding with the scientists what is happening in terms of development of your products which are key. Because the more products you develop, that is going to fetch future revenue. Or at the shop floor with the workmen, or with the field force at your field.
One of the things everybody has to do in Amazon is, one is be a customer service agent at least for 2 days in a year, and be working in the fulfillment stations and go deliver stuff.
Every CEO is the first chief of HR. Every CXO is the chief of HR for his function. It is time that we change this, and all that we can expect from HR departments is to do this little bit of facilitation to make everyone his or her own HR manager. No alternative for this.
Humanity is not something to be owned by all of us. It's just a potential to be unleashed. Yeah, the definition of HR should actually be like this: to maximize human performance closer to the unlimited potential of humans.
Human is not a resource, is not really a concept. I think it should be the purpose of every organization. It's very, very important that the human capital group comes on board with the decision-making strategy of any business, and they should be a very, very essential advisory group in the whole business growth process. Transformational human resource that is really going to make the biggest contribution to the exponential growth of a company.
Disruption does not mean a new product itself, but a new way of doing things. Disruption, we think, is not going to happen to us. But disruption is nobody's relative. Disruption is very good friends with the crazies. And who are the crazies? The crazies are the millennials. Unpredictable, individual mindset, non-controllable, different language of communication is what millennials are all about. They are the creators of disruption, also the consumers of disruption. Millennials are going to be part of the disruption. How do we manage them into our organization? That's something that we got to figure out. How do we manage them?
Cisco is a company that's getting younger and younger, much like India as a country. There are so many millennial populations in the workforce, and when we talk to people who want to join Cisco as an employer, what they tell us is either you're cool enough to be my employer or not. In your mind, what is the definition of organizational coolness and individual coolness?
I feel people are not, on the surface, yes, they're looking for something cool, but what really grabs people's imagination, young people, what they want is some adventure. People want to be a part of something that is constantly stepping into a new dimension, which is very difficult and dangerous for a business to achieve. There are many ways to do this. As I said, when you want to do an adventure, you don't take the whole ship and go. You let out a small boat with a bunch of crazies, and crazies are usually competent. Yes it is that competence which gives them the little madness. So you put them in a small boat, initially on a rope, and let them adventure. See, even if you're on a rope in high seas, it's still an adventure, it throws you around So when you see that they're really competent, let go the rope, let it see, it's a risk. Maybe you have some rescue missions ready, but you let them go. So I would say every company should do this. If you have 10,000 employees, you must at least find 5 to 10 groups, a minimum of 5 people, a maximum of 25 people kind of groups, who will build their own businesses which are complementary to the main business. This is the mothership, and the baby ship should go out. If you do that, not all of them may hit something big, but inevitably somebody will hit something big. Even if they don't hit anything big, your flotilla becomes much more stable than everybody being on one ship. And in case somebody drowns, it's a small thing that drowns, it's not the whole thing. I think this much if you create, a lot of young people would want to be there.
While we are talking about managing a millennial workforce, my strong belief is that it is just a label. Let's not make bones about it. It is reality in some ways. It is a very different generation. But so long as we're looking at them as people and just not another unknown demon, irrespective of whether they are millennials or Gen X, Gen Y, we consider them as people, and then people are the biggest asset for Google.
Is it the millennials or is it the young at heart? To me, whatever is exciting people here could excite any one of us here. It's more of the young mindset which is pushing boundaries, getting into experimentation and stuff like that, you know.
You routinely talk about the fact that people development directly equates to profitability. Clearly, without people development, I don't think organizations can necessarily continue to grow and flourish, because at the end of the day, they are the sustainable differentiator for us. Would you agree with that?
I don't agree with that, because it's not at the end of the day. From the first moment, it's people and people and people which makes the difference. So, not at the end of the day we think of the people, no. The entire human activity is about the people, by the people. Well, sometimes it works for the people, sometimes it doesn't, but it's definitely by the people, there's no two ways about it. So right from first moment, the competence and capabilities that we build into individual human beings is going to determine what we are going to do or not going to do. So, the end of the day may be money, but the beginning is people, the middle is people, all through it's people.
I think this whole concept of the human possibility, I think somewhere we have lost it. And Sadhguru reminding all of us that while you may get the robots and the machines, but there's nothing that can replace the human ingenuity is very, very powerful. And I think it may be seen as a message coming from India, but it's a universal.
Hiring is absolutely important. It is important for the as and now, it's important for future, it's important for evolving into whatever your plans are as an organization. But we're not looking at that hire as a resource, but we're looking at that hire as a potential who could do many things for Google in the future. Hire only people who are better than you, which speaks about the importance of hiring. It's important to find like-minded people with similar values, shared values, so the walking the talk becomes easier. Make sure that the quality of people you hire or the bar that you set is a non-negotiable. It's very easy to get tempted by hiring someone who can just do the job now, but how do you hire people who will take the organization forward, who will help the organization evolve?
Amazon has something called the leadership principles, and there are 14 of them. And any leadership hire that comes in, there are 7 people that interview this candidate, and these 7 people get 2 of those competencies, and you go dive into those competencies, and you can make your own decision on whether you want to hire the person or not. And then you need to go log in your feedback onto a recruiting management system. And after you log in, you need to select a vote, inclined to hire or not inclined to hire. Now, oftentimes there is also a bias, right? If my boss is also on the same panel, and if she is not inclined to hire, chances I am not inclined to hire is also very high, right? So what they did was, till you actually put in your vote, you will not be able to see what the other people are saying. So which means you need to write in your comments. It's a very elaborate exercise. And then you put a vote in, and then when you have put your vote in, you can see other people's comments and when others have hired or not. On top of that, they also have someone called the bar raiser. The bar raiser's job is to keep asking challenging questions as to why you're not hiring the person. On the other hand, if there are 7 people and all the 7 are inclined to hire, you just don't go ahead and hire. The bar raiser's job is to challenge why the person should not be hired. This is not easy to do. This is a very, very tough job. But at the end of it, about 80% of the time, you get it right.
Now, having hired absolutely brilliant people, insanely brilliant, it's important that we do the right things in terms of giving them the right platform to grow. So 3 things that Google does. Create a unified mission. So every single Googler works towards a common mission. The second one is transparency, and this is exhibited or displayed by the leaders. The decisions are taken in a collaborative manner in discussions with all the stakeholders, Googlers at large. And once the decision is taken, there's also a communication that happens. So it's just not about what the decision was, it's about why the decision was. So we encourage Googlers to feel and act as owners, and which is why being transparent with the information, just like the management would have, was important. The third one was have a voice. So 2 reasons for it. One of the cultural beliefs that an idea could come from anywhere. The second one is when you have such brilliant people and we give them the empowerment, we give them the encouragement to act as owners and feel like act as owners, you also need to give them a voice and a platform to express themselves.
We were doing a program for a major international company. The top 25 executives of that company were with us for 3 days. I had 9 volunteers who were helping me around. Our volunteers neither will eat nor sleep. If something has to be done, it has to be done, they'll be on, all the time. None of them are paid for the job and none of them are trained for the job, but they will do the best they can do. So they watch these people. By the end of first day, they asked me, Sadhguru, where do you get such people? You know, they're looking for attrition. I said, you don't get these people, you got to make them. They asked, how do you make them? I said, you must make them fall in love with you. Oh, how do we do that? I said, first you have to fall in love with them. I said, oh, they don't pay us for that.
Hire for the company, not for the role, because that's how you're building an organization for the future rather than an organization for the present. And that actually is literally the current dilemma that we are going through, the challenge that we are facing. So although there were so many wonderful takeaways, that one was instant for me because literally in the last 3 months, that's the discussion I've been having with the team, and it's just perfect timing to have got that input.
The second big takeaway, which is something I'm personally guilty of, is again as decision makers, when you're caught up in so much work, every voice in the company sometimes is not as important. And learning from what Google does, what Amazon does, what so many people here mentioned, how much importance is given to a voice, create that atmosphere of inclusion where every voice is important, they feel included, they speak out. I think that process of inclusion, where you consciously bring in an inclusion no matter how busy you are as a decision maker, I think was very important.
Seeing the volunteers here, it looks like, wow, Sadhguru is really doing a magic, and I think I see Sadhguru in each and every volunteer here. So I'm really obliged, I'm really blessed to be here. I look forward to come for Insight in November.
Why is there something called as work and life? This is because essentially most human beings are suffering their work.
If you give people freedom, they will amaze you.
I want people on Monday to wake up and feel charged about going to office.
How do you make sure people understand what your culture is?
Has that attitude not come in the world? Use and throw of human beings?
Organization transformation is actually human transformation.
Isha as an organization, we would have probably scaled maybe 20 times or maybe more.
You get the best out of them only when they're in a pleasant state of experience.